The Secrets of Middle-earth is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth, where we discuss the hidden themes and deeper layers found in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, whether in his writings or in any of the media derived from them. Be sure to follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. We are on X at SQPN and on Instagram at @StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Middle-earth gear, including our awesome t-shirt at sqpn.com/merch. I'm Thomas Salerno, and joining me today on the panel are Jeff Haecker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Thomas.
Hey, and Pat Mason. Hello, Pat.
Howdy, Thomas.
All right, so today we'll be continuing our march through the Silmarillion, which I think is going slightly quicker than the Quendi's march to Beleriand, but only slightly.
Slightly.
Yeah, but first, we do have some Middle-earth news to cover. First, that at long last, we have a casting for Círdan in the Rings of Power. It is the actor Ben Daniels, and they did share an image of him as Círdan with beard. So what do you guys think? Have you seen the photo, or are you excited for Círdan to actually be in the show? I mean, he's the wielder of one of the elven rings, so we were pretty sure we were going to see him. But I'm just glad to finally get confirmation, because this show has done weird stuff before, and I'm like, if they could find a way to write him out, they would, but I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, we were talking before, and he's kind of one of my favorite, like, smaller characters, so I'm glad that, and I think we knew that he was going to be in it, or at least heavily speculated, so glad to get that confirmation and actually see the image. And I posted it in the Discord channel for Middle-earth, Secrets of Middle-earth, so if you want to check it out, it's already in there. But yeah, I'm excited to see him, and we'll see what kind of role he has in this season and presumably beyond, since he's kind of an important character for that for the story.
Yeah, I was happy to see him. And, when I pulled the photo up, I was like, yeah, that's Círdan. All right. Yep. Good job. So I think they, at least from a visual perspective, they picked the right actor. We'll see what he sounds like. But right. I think he'll probably do a good job reading his previous works he's been on. So okay. I'm glad he's in it.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I think they hit a nice balance with the length of his beard. It's not overly long like a dwarven or wizard beard. It's just a solid beard. And finally we get to see bearded elves on screen, which, even in Tolkien's Legendarium are explicitly very rare, and Círdan's old. I think at this point, he's one of the oldest living elves outside of Valinor. I think, at least.
He may be the oldest.
Yeah.
He's likely one of, if not the oldest, who never went to Valinor. But as far as the other ones, he's probably. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who would still be alive, and not have gone over, or from the original group who went over to Valinor and then came back.
There is some interesting stuff, because I've started reading The Nature of Middle-earth, and there's some interesting stuff in there about how the original elves, the original couples who awoke at Lake Cuiviénen, did not go on the journey and actually stayed as Avari, or wild elves. And I had not even considered that before. That maybe the oldest of the old, the original elves, are still out there in the east somewhere hanging out. Never saw the light of the two trees or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how canonical that is, because it's outside of the published Silmarillion or the Unfinished Tales. But still, that's That would be pretty huge.
Yeah, that would be big. They would definitely beat Círdan.
Yeah, he's a Sindar from what I'm reading, and it says the year he was born between the year of the trees 1050 and 1105, so pretty old. I had his thing pulled up, and it does say he was kin of both Elwë and Olwë, lords and the hosts of the former. Because they were, I think those were, Elwë was the first elf or one of the first elves, Thomas, if you were just talking about it.
Well, actually Elwë is descended. He's like he's either a grandson or a great grandson of like the first elf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But still, that's ancient. And Elwë becomes Thingol.
Right.
So so Círdan's actually kin of Thingol. So they're gray elves.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, Thingol went over. Círdan didn't make it, but Thingol was taken.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He saw, but then he didn't go back. He has his encounter with Melian. And yeah.
Yeah.
The other bit of news we got is that, but like long before this episode goes up, we will have seen the San Diego Comic-Con trailer for the Rings of Power Season 2. Presumably. Which we might cover depending on how much new material is actually shown to us. I feel like teasers sometimes these days have a really bad habit of teasing too much, so that when the quote-unquote full trailer comes out, there's actually not much more than there was originally in the teaser, maybe a few extra bits. But yeah, we'll see what they and what if information comes out of the panel that I'm sure they'll have after they show this trailer. But yeah, so stay tuned for more information on that. But yeah, so we are continuing, as I said, our trek through the Silmarillion, but I just want to give a brief recap of kind of the state of things where we left off. This week we'll be covering Chapter 13 of the Quenta Silmarillion, The Return of the Noldor, but a lot of kind of stuff has happened previously that will, just to refresh everyone's memory, that will contextualize some of the events of this episode. So previously on The Secrets of Middle-earth, Morgoth escapes to Middle-earth and sets up his base at the fortress of Angband in the northwest. In Valinor, Feanor and his sons swear an oath of undying vengeance against Morgoth, swaying many of the Noldor to their cause. The rebellious Noldor are exiled from the Blessed Realm by the Valar, and after seizing the ships of the Teleri elves in the first kinslaying, Feanor and his followers sail to Middle-earth and abandon the host of Fingolfin, who make their way across the grinding ice on foot. Meanwhile, in Beleriand, King Elu Thingol rules over the Sindar elves with his Maya wife, Melian. Morgoth sends armies of orcs to attack Beleriand, but Feanor and his host land on the shores of Middle-earth during the height of the battle. In Valinor, Yavanna and Nienna are unsuccessful in saving the lives of the two trees that Morgoth and Ungoliant had tainted. From the last flower of the silver tree, the moon is fashioned, while the last fruit of the golden tree is used to fashion the sun. These two great lights are given over the protection of the Maiar Tilion and Arien. Morgoth is dismayed by the appearance of these new heavenly lights, while the Valar increase the defenses of Valinor, barring it against the Noldor exiles. Only Ulmo, Lord of Waters, continues to interfere directly in the affairs of Middle-earth. With the first arising of the sun, men awaken in the east of Middle-earth. Some of these second-born children of Iluvatar begin a great migration westward, learning language and crafts from the wandering tribes of the Avari elves. And all of that sets us up for this week's topic, the return of the Noldor. So after Feanor and his sons land their ships at Lamoth on the western shores of Middle-earth, Morgoth attempts to drive the Noldor back into the sea, leading to the Battle Under Stars. By the way, these battle names are going to get progressively more metal as we go on. So. The Noldor are victorious.
Very true.
Yes, yeah.
That's very true.
And have inspired metal albums. So that's, that I just love that, how Middle-earth feeds back into our culture. But the Noldor are victorious, and Feanor is slain by Gothmog, Lord of the Balrogs. Morgoth pretends to negotiate with the Noldor, and in the ensuing confrontation, Maethros, the eldest son of Feanor, is captured and chained by the wrist to a precipice of Thangorodrim, the triple volcanic peaks of Angband. The host of Fingolfin arrives in Middle-earth, and Fingon, the son of Fingolfin, sets out to heal the rift between the two great houses by rescuing his cousin Maethros. With the help of the great eagle, Thorondor, the rescue is a success, and Maethros abdicates the position of High King of the Noldor in favor of his uncle, Fingolfin. Meanwhile, King Thingol bars the Noldor from entering his hidden realm of Doriath, except for the members of the House of Finarfin, who are kin of Thingol by marriage. The sons of Feanor establish the March of Maethros in the northeast of Beleriand as a watch upon Angband, and High King Fingolfin holds the great feast of reuniting to heal the final breaches between the great houses of the Noldor. The friends, Turgon and Finrod, receive visions from Olmo, directing them to establish hidden realms as a last line of defense against Morgoth. Finrod founded the underground city of Nargothrond with the aid of the dwarves, who name him Felagund, hewer of caves, and Turgon discovers a hidden valley and begins the construction of the city of Gondolin. Morgoth launches a new offensive, resulting in the Glorious Battle, in which the Noldor win a triumphant victory, placing Angband under siege for 400 years. But Glaurung, the father of dragons, attempts to break the siege, but is driven back by Fingon. Whew, that is a lot. So
I feel like we covered a lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
it was like 13 pages in the book.
Yeah, this is a pretty epic chapter with a lot of stuff going on. So what do you guys think? Should Tolkien have broken this up, or do you like having this long chapter full of a lot of really set piece events?
I think I like it all at once because it gives you some movement after. There's been some slow chapters recently, so this kind of gives you a lot of there's a lot to unpack in this, and it's kind of nice to get all this because the next chapter is very exciting. It's a Beleriand in its realm, so
the most exciting chapter.
Oh yeah,
essential setup for Beleriand and its realms. Yeah,
but there's just a lot to unpack here and a lot of battles, and I was reading this 13-page chapter and was like, this is a 10-book novel series. And if I'm not right,
yeah,
this would be the entire book series, but it's 13 pages, and it's.
I mean, you could do 4, maybe 5 seasons on Amazon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hint.
But yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of and yeah, Feanor, his exit is interesting because he's mortally wounded, and then his spirit is so feisty that he just burns to ash, and his body it spontaneously combusts.
Yeah, just feel like if you're his sons, you're probably that we expected that. But if you're just another guy in the army and you see that happen, you're like, what did I get myself into? What am I doing here?
I really regret this decision.
Yeah. Our leader just burst into flames.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost in that sense kind of poetic justice for the burning of the ships, isn't it?
Yeah.
That he also suffers death by fire.
Yeah. I just every time I read that, I'm like, really? Really? He gets there and then dies within I don't know, a couple days. Like all this build up and all these things sacrificed to get over there, and then can't hold himself back.
Yeah, because you feel like the Silmarillion is going to be his story.
Right.
And he exits stage left pretty quickly once they get to Beleriand.
Yeah. Very right.
And then he's going to go spend a lot of time in the halls of Mandos.
Yeah, until the end of the world, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This it's just a lot going on, but it's very history. Some of it is sort of, epic tale, individual character actions, that kind of stuff. The Feanor bit, and then the bit with Maedhros. But most of it is kind of history, and it's very like a sort of broad stroke history, which is nice, and it's fun because it's setting up all the main tales which come at the end of the first age, which are all very sad. But it sets up all of the nice things that we had before those times.
It's true, yeah. And I think this is our first named appearance of Gothmog. They've mentioned the Balrogs before, but I don't know if Gothmog has been a named character up until this point.
So I'm trying to remember if he shows up in the Ungoliant fight, or if it just says Balrogs.
Yeah, I feel like it just said Balrogs.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will see him. This is not the last you'll see of Gothmog. He's like, at this point, Sauron, as a lieutenant of Morgoth, doesn't come out and fight a whole lot himself. Gothmog seems to handle, like, if physical stuff needs to get done, you send Gothmog, If you need to corrupt people by stealth and treachery, then you send Sauron. So Gothmog's the blunt instrument, and Sauron's the scalpel at this point.
It's the tank versus the range sorcerer who's striking from afar. So you need both to have a successful raid on a dungeon.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. People are like, well, why didn't the Balrog just hook up with Sauron? And it's like, well, because those guys are about equal power level. And there's no guarantee the Balrog would listen to Sauron.
Right, yeah.
And even if Sauron knows he's there, he's probably not interested in waking him up.
Yeah, a potential rival. It's no. It's it's the same argument of well, why didn't Smaug and Sauron team up? And it's for probably the same reasons, and also because dragons can be incredibly selfish and lazy. Yeah. So he just may not have wanted to even bother. It's I just want to sit here on my gold, man. Go away.
Well, that's even part of why. And even then, Gandalf was worried about the dragon teaming up with Sauron, with the necromancer at the time.
He didn't even want to take the risk.
So that's why they were sending. He initiated Bilbo's whole quest to try to stop the dragon from being a potential threat down the road, because Sauron already got pretty close to wiping out the Middle Earth. So if he had a dragon with him, that could have been even worse. But Smaug would have just still wanted his gold and hide away in the mountain.
Right, unless there was a chance of him getting more gold, he might have not been
right. There's no guarantee that Smaug's not going to turn on you. Right, when he gets the chance to take your stuff.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Not really interested in ruling anything, but I do want all of your stuff.
I'm taking the ring to...
Yeah.
But he would take it not even to use it, just to have it. And
on a tooth.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And we'll see later in this that we finally have dragons enter the story, but they're a little bit different at this point than we get with Smaug later. Well, one last bit I want to talk about with the death of Feanor is that, he should have listened to Mandos. Mandos said, your spirit will come to me very soon. Or he said, Feanor, he's you will return to me very soon. And he didn't say how. But he meant, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You chose port. I like how it opens with them with their cry in, is it Lamoth?
Yeah, in Lamoth, yeah.
Yeah, with the reaching up with the cry of Morgoth, and sort of Feanor's cry, Feanor and his guys' cry, going up with that, and the fire from the orcs. It's interesting to me that you have, or not the fire from the orcs, the fire from the ships, right? Mm-hmm. You have lights introducing the various groups of people who are going to fight against Morgoth. That is Feanor's people, which is fire, which alerts the orcs. and doesn't fear cause them to be afraid or anything. And then you have the rising of the moon with Fingolfin. Fingolfin. That puts everybody into wonder. And then you have the rising of the sun for the men, right? Who eventually become the final bane of the orcs. I find that was an interesting progression to me. That Feanor is sort of he's supposed to be the best and strongest of the elves and everything, but he has the smallest group of people and the most infighty, as we'll see as what goes on. The problematic. His children who begin with C.
He's like, I'm tired of everyone's name starting with F. Now they'll all start with C.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and now I'm never going to be able to get that Cookie Monster song out of my head. Cookie, cookie, cookie starts with C. C is for cookie. That's
good enough for me. I don't know why I ate a whole package of Oreos after that podcast.
But yeah, we get to see some of his sons who start with C later, like Caranthier. Caranthier starts with C. Yeah, now whenever he comes up, I'll just bring up that song.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of him and Curufin and some of the others are kind of a thorn. They end up being kind of banes of some of the elves later. Because again, like, they just go out of their way to be jerks.
Yeah.
Create tension with the other elves. It's like they were all there when their dad disintegrates into ash, and instead of always like, maybe we should get our lives together, they're just like, nope, let's continue to be,
we're gonna double down on this.
Yeah, but it's the oath, I guess, that's driving them on, and it's the curse, that's causing them to become more and more dysfunctional.
Yeah,
it's not till Maedhros is tortured and loses a hand that he kind of recognizes, okay, maybe this isn't the way we should do things, and give it up to Finrod to lead the Noldor.
Right? Yeah. Fingolfin. Everybody starts with it.
I know. I just need to print out a big chart and put it put it above my computer.
I like how at that first parlay that they go to, neither side believes the other is acting in good faith, so they don't act in good faith. And I'm like, this is too much like current events. This is like you're in America, where it's like you have two groups of people, both of whom suspect and hate the other, and act in good faith, in bad faith, because they believe the other is acting in bad faith. And Morgoth is like, yeah, I might even give up a Silmaril, and they're like, well, we don't believe that for a second, but we'll show up anyway, in hopes of I don't know what, but it ends in Maedhros being taken hostage.
Yeah, I just like, why did you agree to that?
Yeah.
Like, is this the second Gothmog appearance? Does he show up at this?
I think he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say, which, I mean, I gotta, like, there are some things which are difficult to hide. For instance, a towering, smoking Balrog. Like, you gotta, a flame Maya. I just kind of figure, like, couldn't they see that from far off? Like, he couldn't, like, just be standing behind a tree and pop out like, hey, gotcha.
Unless they fly in
right
on the wings.
Do
they have wings though?
Send us your emails now. Do Balrogs have wings? Yeah,
we should do a poll in the Discord.
Maybe I'll pull one up when this episode drops. Do
Balrogs have wings?
Yeah, he could have just popped in like the Kool-Aid Man, oh yeah, and then grabbed Maedhros and be off with him.
Yeah. The Kool-Aid Man bursting in on I don't know what, because there's no buildings yet. Like what? Yeah,
I don't know. He smashes through a boulder
underground.
Yeah, from underground. They're good at doing that, popping up from underground and and stealing something.
Angband is just a maze of tunnels and stuff under the ground, and they just go everywhere, and that's how the Balrogs get everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's not, for Morgoth, it's not enough to have one volcano. He has to have three, and they have to be the tallest mountains in Middle Earth. And they're not even like natural volcanoes, I think. Like, I think they're just built up from all the slag, like anthills, because they have to burrow in the ground and create all these tunnels. And so all the slag and debris and stuff is what creates these mountains. And I'm like, it's almost like I feel, and they did this in the beginning of the Rings of Power, kind of focus in on like the sort of vermin or insect-like aspects of the orcs when they were making those tunnels and stuff. And I feel like they don't do enough of that in screen adaptations, because I feel like that makes the orcs very different than just, standard fantasy orcs are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because in Lord of the Rings, in the movies, in the first two movies, it's mostly the Uruk-hai that they're fighting.
Yeah.
And in the third movie, it's just the big battle of, the big battles against the host of Mordor. So they're not really having to hide at that point. But you do kind of see it when they're running through Khazad-dûm. The orcs are they're scrambling up the columns and stuff, and
that's cool.
Hiding away there. So you do kind of see, but yeah, they are. I hadn't really thought about them being like insect-like, but yeah, they kind of are.
Yeah, insect-like or like vermin,
They do. I think they do a good job with the goblins, both in Khazad-dûm and then in Goblin Town.
I love how different the goblins are in the Hobbit movie. Yeah.
And I gotta say, I know it's contractually obligated that we talk about the Hobbit movie, but that is actually one of my favorite scenes from the Hobbit movie. They very much were able to teleport what I had in my mind onto screen, and I was very happy about that.
Yeah. And I love, my brother and I have a favorite bit in that sequence where there's the little guy. He's almost like Salacious Crumb from Star Wars. He's that little goblin on that little minecart thing that goes around, and he delivers messages for the Goblin King, and he's just like, go tell Azog we have the prisoners, and he just goes off in that little minecart cackling hysterically, and I'm like, that was totally unnecessary, but it was awesome. I'm glad they had that.
Yeah.
But in terms of other awesome stuff, I love Fingon's rescue of Mithros. I feel that's such a cool display of friendship between cousins, and just that he not only does it to save his cousin whom he loves, but to heal the rift between their families. And that's almost like, it sounds like almost like something that would, like you said, Pat, that would be from epic history or something like that, or from one of the sagas or something. But it there's just something primal about that, which I really like.
Yeah, there's almost like an Abrahamic quality to it, because it's like he's going to kill him to prevent him from having more torture. But then God Iluvatar answers by sending Thrandir to, fly down to rescue him, because he tries to get to Midros, but he can't, because it's the tallest thing ever. It's the tallest volcano, and he just can't get to him. So he's going to put him out of his misery, basically. But Iluvatar, it's kind of that will of Iluvatar that pops up here and there that sends the eagles to save the day. And he has to cut off his hand to get away. But his other hand, he's stronger with his sword in the other hand anyway. That it says that he becomes more deadly. So I'm kind of imagining he put a club or a knife or something on his
other
severed hand, and have his dual wielding or something,
like Aquaman in some of the comics.
That's kind of what I was thinking of, Aquaman.
I do like the first introduction of the Deus Ex Machina eagles, which is the And I love the fact that it's Manwë, like, hey, go help them. Like, I'm not going to intervene directly, but I still actually, I don't want them to be too bad off.
Right.
I know we're mad at them, but still. And I love it's the Eagles. And I like the fact that Maedhros has to lose his hand. And it kind of reminds me of, one of the epic stories about, Odin being tied to the tree, right, and having his eye taken out in order to gain wisdom. And this is sort of, we see a very similar thing happen with Maedhros. He loses his hand, which is sort of his martial prowess, right? But he is gaining wisdom from this experience about like how unassailable Morgoth is and how powerful he actually is. And this happens, very closely on the death of his father. So he has some time to think about all of this. And, we were given earlier in the Silmarillion that he has, some of the only sense his mother was able to pass on to her children is mostly in him.
Right. Yeah.
And she was supposed to be one of the wisest of the Noldor. So you kind of have him be established as, he's not the wise king, right? Because he hands that over. But that move in and of itself speaks to the wisdom he gains from this experience.
Yeah, it's like if this wasn't in like the prose Edda, it just seems like something right out of the Eddas, out of like the Norse mythology. Yeah, it just has all of those themes that Tolkien loved about those stories. Fun tidbit. So they say Thorondor's wingspan is 30 fathoms. And so I just looked this up. That's 180 feet.
Yeah.
So he's even bigger than like the Eagles of the Third Age, which have like, maybe a 30-foot wingspan, it looks like. 35. Almost a 200-foot wingspan. Yeah, that is bigger than anything that flew, in prehistoric times, you name it. That's like airplane size.
Well, the creatures are just bigger because the dragons of this time were also much larger than Smaug ever was. Like Glaurung, who we'll meet, he's too big to even. I don't know if he has wings, but if he did, I don't know that he could fly because he's just too giant. And but then when we get to the end of the similar, or when we get to the end of the First Age, and we have the big battle, the big battle to end all battles. Like the dragons and the eagles are. I think don't the eagles and the dragons fight, and then the biggest dragon like crashes on top of the mountains and like levels them because he's so big.
Yeah,
they're flying around too, so it's like the physics may not really work, but
But again, it's like something straight out of the Eddas. It's like it's like you could imagine the fight between like Jormungandr and Thor or something like that.
Yeah, he could not fly. Just gonna put that out there.
Glaurung,
or Thorondor. He's too big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The wing to size to weight ratio doesn't work. There's a certain point at which like you have to basically, as a bird, if you're too big, throw yourself off a mountain in order to be able to fly. And he's past that.
And like the
so
largest,
he could never get off the ground if he was on the ground.
Right. And like I'm going to put back on my paleontologist hat for a second, but like the biggest flying creatures we know of are the Ashdarchid pterosaurs, like Quetzalcoatlus or Hatzegopteryx, and they have maybe like 35 foot wingspans tops, but they are insanely light. Their bones are basically hollow tubes. And they don't have feathers like birds. They had wings made of skin membrane. So they put a ton of weight saving adaptations into their body to be able to fly at that size. You can never get a bird at that size just because physics, like.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with spiders. Anything beyond like the giant Brazilian bird-eating spiders, and like the physics don't work. The all of the parts start falling. They fall apart under their own weight, basically.
Yeah.
So.
It's almost like you need, since Middle Earth is an age of magic, you could just be like, well, it's animals are bigger because the life force of Yavanna or something is in them. You can always headcanon it, where like physics works differently at this time.
Well, it's a flat Earth, so who knows what's making it.
Yeah.
So.
And I just learned from the nature of Middle Earth that
gravity.
that Tolkien tried to go back on that later in life, where he's like, no, maybe it was a round Earth after all, and maybe the sun and moon didn't really come from the two trees. I'm like, no, don't change it.
Yeah. What are you doing?
So, like, luckily that stuff, didn't get published in the official Silmarillion. But, yeah, in any case, like, it's such a moving sequence, the rescue of Mithros. I'd say it's probably one of my top moments in the Silmarillion, just for like because Fingon is I believe he was in, so he took the trek over the grinding ice, right? And for all he knew, Mithros was in on the burning of the ships. He didn't know that Mithros objected.
Yeah.
And he's still willing to save him. Like, if he assumed that Mithros went along with his dad, he doesn't hold it against him.
Oh, they were like best buds back in Valinor.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of...
Yeah. It does say it stung his heart, but he still like went ahead and was going to try to do, rescue him, or, even harder to kill him so that he wouldn't be suffering on the volcano, because the volcano is probably erupting and there's probably lava like flowing around. It's burning him. It's probably not very comfortable up there. So it's probably like good. You could imagine wanting to be put out of that misery. So, but luckily Thrandir was, Manwë answered their prayers, and Thrandir came to save him and get him back with the rest of the Noldor.
Yeah, and so you have Fingolfin kind of take up the reins as High King, but there's another king in Middle-earth at this time, and that's Elufingol. And it's interesting that he only opens up his land kind of to his blood relatives among the Teleri. So people like Finrod and Galadriel and some of the others. And this sort of ends up when they have that big council where Finrod brings back Thingol's he lays down the law and say, look, you can't come in my realm, and I'm only going to let you settle in certain places. And the others just kind of scoff at that, and they're like, what does he matter? He's just like, they call him a dark elf, and they get all...
Angrod?
Oh, no, you're right. Angrod comes back with the message. Yeah. But Finrod was, I think, part of the delegation, though.
I think he was.
Yeah. But you're right. Angrod's a spokesman. Yeah. Who is another son of Finarfin. But yeah, and they get kind of, the sons of Feanor get kind of snippy, and they, throw shade at the fact that, like the sons of Finarfin are not like pure-blooded Noldor. They have Teleri blood in them. Like, your mother was of other kin or something like that. I'm like, there's no need for that.
Yeah. Well, I like how Maedhros makes the point that, okay, well, you fenced yourself off in this realm, and that's your realm. So be king there, and we'll hold everything else down. You're welcome. Which I like, because it showcases how similar Thingol and Morgoth are, because they both consider themselves the king of Beleriand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're both held up in their own little realm, in their own tunnel system. One of them being the Hells of Angband, the other being the, one of the most beautiful places of all time, Menegroth. But it's interesting because they both have that sort of prideful streak running through them where Thingol's like, no, this is my realm and I'm in charge. And Morgoth is, I'm the rightful ruler of everything, kind of a deal. And Maedhros is like, yeah, no, pretty sure I've got the swords and I'm holding this place, so I'm going to declare myself having this realm.
But Maedhros does have the wisdom to realize that his brothers don't play nice with others. So he kind of removes them to far away from Finarfin and no, Finarfin's not there, but his sons and Fingolfin's sons, and takes them to the east of Beleriand. Not only are they now far away from their rivals, but it's also the place where they can kind of do the most good with their martial prowess, because that's where the geography would allow Morgoth to just send a big army through if he wanted. So there's Maedhros is kind of like, his newfound wisdom again, where he's like, I think I'm going to settle here because kill two birds with one stone, get my brothers away from doing more damage, but also shoring up our defenses, because they know war's coming. It's just a question of when, Yeah. And in the east, though, we finally get the meet up between the Noldor as the Sons of Feanor and the dwarves. And the dwarves have kind of always been kind of friendly-ish with the Noldor because they both like crafts and gems and the creating of things and stuff. So I thought
which son is it? It's like, is it Curfear? I'm probably saying that really
the one who
wrong.
meets the dwarves?
Yeah, the one who's landed closest to the dwarves, so he's the one who ends up interacting with them most.
Oh, my notes say Caranthier,
but he's also
Caranthier. Yeah,
like the most haughty of them, and looks down on the dwarves for being ugly. And I'm just like, man, get over yourself.
Yeah, because they call the dwarves the Naugrim, which is the stunted people.
And even the Sindar were calling them that, and it's like,
And is he the one that goes off at the council about?
Yeah.
So he's just a troublemaker. He's going to be a troublemaker later on in the stories. Why can't you learn to get along?
He seems the most like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's not the eldest.
Well, Maedhros probably would have been like him, but he was humbled, like you said, by his experience being captured and tortured by Morgoth.
Yeah.
The other big kind of event that takes place is the dreams of Turgon and Finrod, and they're another set of cousins, I think. Turgon and Finrod. At least they're friends. I'm not sure if they're first cousins, but
Turgon is Fingolfin's son.
Yes,
is that right?
I think because he becomes High King later, so he's got to be.
Yeah. And then Finrod is. I don't remember who's Finrod.
Oh, he's from the House of Finarfin because he's Galadriel's brother.
That's right.
And Angrod's brother. And
so yeah, cousins. That'll cover it.
Yeah. Broadly kind of cousins, but we see, Ulmo, going rogue again and interacting with the men and elves of Middle Earth, which is great. And, is in the form of dreams. Almost reminds me of like the incidents of dreams we have in like the Gospels, either like the dreams of Joseph, like warning him about stuff, or like the dreams of the Magi, go back to your land by another way and all that stuff, like those dreams kind of directing people to places, and I like how when they both wake up, they don't tell each other about their dreams, even though they had the same dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get Finrod establishing Nargothrond with the dwarves, and becoming, in their tongue, Felagund. He gets a new name because it's Tolkien. Yep. Gets Felagund, or Hewer of Caves, which seems like that should be a very common dwarf name, I guess. But
right,
yeah, Hewer of Caves. But
maybe it's like a title in the dwarven culture, like if you're like a great builder or a great, someone who who digs these great halls or whatever the case may be. Maybe that's like a title, like you're a Felagund.
Yeah,
kind of bestowing that title upon him,
which would show like really deep respect that they have. And Finrod's good at getting along with people, because not only does he get along with the dwarves, later we'll see he's the first elf of Beleriand to encounter men, and he makes friends with them immediately.
I think when we did our fatherhood episode last year, I counted him as a father because he was kind of like the father of men in a way, and that he taught them. And then, as we'll see later in the story, he befriends Barahir and later kind of repays that debt with Beren.
Yeah.
So he's like, Finrod's one of my favorite characters in the Silmarillion, and I'm sad when he's no longer around, but
that's
he's got a pretty epic ending.
These dreams are setting us up for tragedy later, because both of these great cities of Nargothrond and Gondolin are going to have tragic endings.
Well, we keep saying the continent of Beleriand is not in Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power, so something's got to happen to it eventually.
It's not in Rings of Power?
No, because it's the Second Age. It's after like you have Numenor was given to the men as a gift for what they did, because of Beleriand is gone in the war.
Yeah, they mention it once or twice in the show, but as something from the past. But that was actually cool, because like Arandi, the character Arondir in the show, says he was born there in Beleriand, and then Adar remembers it, before he was an orc, one of the first orcs. So that's cool. But both of these locations, though, Nargothrond and Gondolin, their sort of influence extends into the Third Age, because they're both referenced several times in the text of the Lord of the Rings. I was rereading earlier today Gimli's song when they're in Moria, where he talks about how Moria was in the past as Khazad-dûm, and he mentions both Nargothrond and Gondolin as being from like the same sort of time frame as the original building of Khazad-dûm and all that stuff.
And Aragorn and the heirs of Elendil wear the ring of Finrod.
Right.
One of their heirlooms. So
right. And they say I'm not sure if they say in the Silmarillion, they say like Finrod he loved bling. He loved jewelry and gems, and took a lot of gems from Valinor when they left.
Well, he gets the Noglamir, right?
Yeah,
which is full of all the gems from Valinor that Ungoliant didn't eat. A bunch of them get put in that, and through that work with the dwarves. I also find it interesting Nargothrond is actually known to Thingol, and he's the one who points it out.
Yeah.
He sends scouts and says, "Oh, you want this place?" Like,
yeah, it's like there are caves there, like
Finrod. Actually, he doesn't tell Turgon his dream, but he tells Thingol.
Right. Yeah, and that's interesting. Yeah.
Thingol just wanted them to go away and leave him alone. So there's a nice development over there. You can go.
Yeah, you can't crash at my place anymore.
Get your own system of caves.
Yeah.
These are taken.
Which makes me wonder why Thingol didn't settle there himself, but instead created kind of Menegroth.
Well, he was he was married to a Maiar, and so she was who was a servant of I think Yavanna, right? Melian was a servant of Fiambulana.
I think so. Yeah.
So she would want to be around like, living things and
trees and
things like that instead of, going and hiding underground in a cave.
Yeah. And like, but Thingol lets Galadriel hang around though. Probably because Melian told him to let her stay.
Yeah.
One of the times he listens to her.
Right. Yeah.
There are lots of times he doesn't.
Yeah. Galadriel just wants us to stay because she's met a certain young Sindar named Celeborn. But
yeah. Although I like how it sort of sets up her as sort of the eventual Melian, right? For Lothlorien.
Yeah.
As the, holder of that realm and the protector of it. And like it's almost got a girdle around it.
Yeah.
In the same way Melian had. Although it's interesting to me if you read like some of the Lost Tales or the unfinished stuff, like her story is very different.
Galadriel's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or don't even meet until the Second Age in some of the versions. And I honestly kind of like this one better, to be honest. I think I know what Tolkien was trying to do with all of the tinkering with her, but I kind of like her and Celeborn being in the Kingdom of Dorian in the First Age.
Yeah, it makes the most sense to me, which is probably why, the fact that it makes the most sense is probably why Christopher chose it to include it in the original published Silmarillion. Because he's like, this has the least contradictions and other kinds of weird stuff. Yeah, it's interesting that there were certain characters like Galadriel that he was always fiddling with till like the very end.
Yeah, I think he was trying to kind of make Galadriel as close to an analog for Mary for the elves as he could. And so he just kept tinkering with her and tinkering with her and tinkering with her. To the point where it's like she was not involved with any badness or anything terrible that happened ever. And it's kind of like, yeah, I get what you're going for there. But at the same time, I kind of like her being an immersed character in the world.
Right. Yeah. What was I gonna? Yeah, and she also learns the creation of Lembas from Melian, if I remember right. So that's another thing she'll learn while in Doriath. But yeah, both of these cities, though, Gondolin and Nargothrond, are going to be important later because these battles are going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we have another set piece battle towards the end of this chapter, the glorious battle, or the Dagor Aglareb. Where the Aglareb. Yeah, it's just great. I love these names, and a crushing victory for the Noldor, though. It's almost like Morgoth really underestimated both probably their numbers, but also probably their willingness to fight to the bitter end.
Yeah. Or, I mean, truthfully, he's never seen them fight, really. Like, the last war he was mostly involved with Valar taking him down. So he wasn't fighting elves. So he's never really seen them fight. And I like how after that battle, it says like Morgoth figured out the orcs were not going to be enough. Like, I got to get something else out there.
He's got orcs. He's got Balrogs. I don't know if he has trolls. They don't mention them. But at this point, he starts making other stuff. And he's got time because Angband will be invested by a siege for 400 years, which I know for the elves is like a weekend, but that's still that's a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the great siege, and also like Morgoth, he also realized he needs more intelligence about the Noldor, so he commands some of his servants to capture Noldor alive, if possible, and he breaks some of them into he doesn't transform them into more orcs, but he makes them his agents, and like sends them back as like double. He releases them and kind of sends them back as double agents to like do his bidding, which It's interesting. Again, something that I was reading this weekend in The Nature of Middle-earth. Tolkien says that the elves who did do this for Morgoth never did it because they were truly loyal to him or had any allegiance to him. They did it out of fear.
Yeah, it mentions that they couldn't stand his eyes, and it would haunt them and terrify them, even if he wasn't reaching out with any of his power or anything. Just the remembering having to stare into his eyes was enough to cause them to do his will. I think they call them thralls in some of the material, and I think that's a. They don't say it in the Silmarillion, at least not in this spot, but in some of the material. That's what they call them, and I think that's a pretty apt description.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just terrifying.
Yeah,
that you can be so, not even brainwashed, but essentially just completely cowed into, by this outside intelligence into just doing, its will because you're just terrified, down to the very core of your being. That's just horrifying.
And then it makes it more powerful later when we see Beren and Luthien going up against Morgoth. Because he's quested to cut a Silmaril from his crown. So he's going to do it because he loves Luthien so much. And then she goes with him. So it's like
into this place. Yeah. It's like who would go there willingly,
Yeah.
I like how Sam acknowledges in The Lord of the Rings that Thangorodrim Angband was a worse and darker place than Mordor. And Mordor's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad here.
It's like how can you imagine anywhere worse than Mordor? And it's like it's almost mind-bendingly, terrifying how awful it's probably even more of a closer analog for hell than Mordor is. Because Mordor is basically just like a giant military camp for Sauron. And there's even like quote unquote nice parts of it where like he grows all the food to feed his armies. But like Angband just seems like, no, it's just pits, awful hell mouths. And like, there's nothing nice about it.
Yeah.
Mordor at least has to have restaurants because the orcs know about menus, so they know.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What would the orc kind of fast food chain be called? Like Black Castle instead of White Castle or something like that.
Burger Overlord.
I'd say they don't have Whataburger, but that's a Texas thing for the most part. So, which
oh my gosh.
I don't know. I think about it like I think Thangorodrim and the Iron Hells of Angband strike me as very much a hellish environment for maybe the Sindar and the slightly less for the Calaquendi, but because they're all used to living in darkness, the Morquendi are, but you have no stars, right? That's cut off, and then the darkness isn't like your friend anymore. It's terrifying. And it's the sounds don't make any sense because you're out of the woods and nothing feels right and you're away from living things. Whereas Mordor strikes me as a hell for more like men and hobbits. It's like, these blasted lands that I can do absolutely nothing with because, hobbits are about cultivating and humans are about building. And I feel like that's sort of the analog. Because you get the different kinds of heaven over in Valinor, you get the different kinds of hell over in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Morgoth.
Well, yeah, and like it's mentioned somewhere that like even like Mordor, like those mountains, that form that generally kind of rectangle shape that forms Mordor, and Mount Doom itself, were raised during like Morgoth's early battles with the Valar and stuff. And it always just irks me when people are like, the geography of Middle Earth makes no sense. Mountains don't go at right angles to each other. I'm like, it's not a natural geography. It's being created by titanic angelic beings who are literally raising artificial mountain ranges. It's not supposed to be realistic like that.
Well, wait till they find out the Earth was flat for a while.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing to do with tectonic plates.
And the sun and the moon were made from fruits of trees. They're concerned about the geography. I don't know that they're reading it for the right reasons.
Right reasons, yeah. Yeah. But our last kind of big set piece moment is, as we've teased earlier, the release of Glaurung, or rather kind of Glaurung's coming out party. Like he's someone on the scene. He's coming out on the scene for the first time. He's not supposed to. He defies orders, which I thought is interesting. Showing again that independent streak in dragons, where they don't seem to just take the orders of the overlords for granted. They very much do their own thing. He's not even a full-grown dragon at this point, but he causes chaos wherever he goes. And like they're just astonished, because like imagine if you had no conception of what a dragon was, and then to see one for the first time, even a juvenile one, that must have been terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a giant snake that has legs and breathes fire and
yeah.
Is it Fingolfin who ends up bringing it to heel, or is it
Fingon? My notes.
Fingon. It's Fingon. Yeah, that's right. Encircles it with the horse archers and waylays it because it doesn't have its scales aren't fully formed. So it's like, ouch! I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts.
It's like in the Godzilla movies where like the juvenile Godzilla is always more vulnerable than his final form.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that he wins great renown for driving Glaurung back with his mounted archers to Angband, and I'm sure he gets hit on the nose with a newspaper by Morgoth. Bad dragon, bad.
Go to your room for another couple hundred years.
Yeah. And no dragon biscuits for you. So. I'm just imagining. But yeah, like as we said at the top, this is a jam-packed chapter. There's a lot going on, but it only gets kind of more jam-packed from here on out, aside from like, I don't know, a few stumbling blocks like the Lariend and its realms.
So stay tuned for our 10 episodes on that chapter.
Yes, yeah. Speaking of geography, lessons.
Yeah, we're going to break Valerian into 10 quadrants, and we're going to talk about every piece of it. Excruciating detail.
I was actually listening to because our friend Caitlin Fashista, Tea with Tolkien, on her YouTube channel, she's also been doing a kind of read through of the Silmarillion, and in her video on Beleriand and its realm, she says this should really have been an appendix.
Mm-hmm.
So really,
could have been a map. Instead of talking through all of this, we could have just drawn it on a map.
You could that.
She did.
Yeah, like the chapter should have been one sentence. Please refer to the map at the beginning of the book.
The chapter should have been an email.
Another meeting that should have been an email.
Oh my gosh. But did you guys have any final wrap-up thoughts about the return of the Noldor?
No, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a lot going on, and it sets up a lot of stuff. So it's a pretty good chapter. And like I said, you can make a whole 10 book series about just what goes on here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But he crammed it into 13, 14 pages.
There's something to be said for that. Yeah, that he could distill all the, but it's almost like the outline for like a larger series. Again, hint, creative people at Amazon or Warner Brothers or whatever, like.
Yeah, like, so I think what's interesting to me is the battles are they're not entirely like, it's always like, oh hey, the elves won, but there's always a cost. And right, the first battle, once Feanor's involved, the first battle or the second battle under the stars, the cost ends up being Feanor. And then the second battle, like it goes over well, but it kind of it comes out with that, okay, the elves sort of start getting this chip on their shoulder, like this is easy, orcs are easy to kill. And the glorious battle, like, oh, this is super easy, and then even Glaurung, so we drove them away, it's no big deal. And it says very, very few people thought that, this was a foreboding of things to come. You got to wonder, like, who were those people who are eventually going to get to say, I told you so.
Right. Yeah.
But it always seems like the elves are winning, but there is something else that it's foreshadowing, or a cost that comes to those wins. That is, baby Morgoth. They're actually battles where Morgoth is really winning. Being able to take out Feanor that early. Can you imagine if Feanor was in the Dagor Bragalath or was involved in the Nirnaeth or Nordian? Like, how different those fights would have been. Right. Or if is Feanor challenging Morgoth mano a mano. Not right. Throwing any shade against Fingolfin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not throwing any shade against Fingolfin, but Manwë said he was the best of them. But he burns himself out. And so I think each of these battles represents something of a win for Morgoth, even though they look like they're battles that have been won by the elves and the protectors of Beleriand.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Morgoth really does play the long game, and he's willing to take setbacks, knowing that I can absorb this. I always have more orcs. And they're not getting, for all Morgoth knows, that they're not getting reinforcements. The Valar are not coming. So from his point of view, so all he needs is time, and for the Noldor to exhaust themselves, which is basically his whole strategy. And you see Sauron kind of adopt a similar strategy in the Third Age, right? Or when in his, forever war against Gondor, he's like, where, I think Faramir says something like, Sauron can afford to lose an entire army more than we can afford to lose one company of guys. So Sauron is perfectly fine with throwing away tens of thousands of orcs or Easterlings, as long as he can achieve one little goal that he wanted. So
it turns out I'm an angelic being, so I've got time. I don't have to do it right now. Which is kind of a funny thing that happens with the ring. Suddenly he doesn't have time. Like, he does have to do it now.
Right.
It's a very interesting way of turning that on its head.
Yes. Yeah. Where Gandalf says all that stuff about, like, he's starting to act impulsively now. He's starting to do things that he really wish he didn't have to do right now, but he has no other choice. It's strike now or you lose the initiative. Yeah. because as an embodied angelic being who has tied most of his embodied life force to the ring, he now has to worry about things like time, Very interesting metaphysical stuff. But stay tuned for our we're going to continue moving through the Secrets of Middle-earth, and maybe we'll get that 10-part series on the lands of Beleriand.
Can't wait.
But until then, we would like to thank our patrons, including Alfredo B, Ed B, Mary V, Scott S, and Alvin W, because their generous donations help us to continue to create the Secrets of Middle-earth and all of our shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at sqpn.com/give. And we'd like to hear from all our listeners. Are you reading the Silmarillion along with us? What are your thoughts on the return of the Noldor or anything in the writings of J.R.R. Tolkien? You can reach out to us by email at middleearth@sqpn.com, or you can leave a comment on YouTube or on the SQPN social media pages, or by joining the discussion on our StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. Until next time, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Middle-earth.
Thanks, Thomas.
And Pat Mason, thank you as well.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
And once again, I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Catholics of Oz. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Oz.